Hi, my name is Jacob Cutshaw, and this is my research PowerPoint presentation for my Technology Applications course at East Tennessee State University. And so for this particular project, I decided to review an article that was titled Online Learning: Examination of Attributes that Promote Student Satisfaction. So one of the reasons that I really like to cover these types of articles is that I can relate to these, as my master's was completed via online education, as well as my doctorate, which is currently being provided in the same manner. So again, something I can definitely relate to, and I like to actually dig into a little bit more on the statistics behind that and the research that goes into that for the 21st century. So the purpose of the study for this particular research article was to examine student satisfaction with online learning and identify attributes that contribute to humanizing the online classroom. The attempt was to determine which communication tools provided students with a sense of social presence in the course. And so later on in this PowerPoint, I will actually touch on what social presence was defined as for this research. But the study was completed via student survey. And so what do the statistics say? And so for me, anytime that I read into an article, I always like to know what the previous stats have said before and leading up to this. And so in 2018, Babson Survey Research Group reported that online enrollments over the past 14 years have increased. And so I think for anyone who is currently in education, and even those who are outside education, at least I believe that it is pretty obvious to see the increase. I graduated from high school not very long ago, in 2014 to be exact, and I felt like for county schools at the time to find an online learning academy through K-12 education was very difficult. I certainly did not have the opportunities to learn online full time, and so I can't say that was necessarily something that I wanted to pursue, but that was something, again, that may have been a good option for others. So 70.8% of institutions have at least one enrolled distance education student. And so that kind of rolls into the 31.6% of all higher education students have taken at least one distance education course. And so 68.9% is at public institutions, and 82.62% are undergraduates that are taking these distance education courses, and the 17.38% are graduates. And so I find that kind of interesting too, because the two graduate degrees that one that I have obtained and one that I am hopefully in the process of obtaining, will both be delivered online. And so I do find that statistic I thought that statistic might be a little higher, so maybe over time it will be. But the research questions for this, and so I'll actually go on, I think in the next slide, a little bit more about how the test was actually done, but these were the questions that were addressed in the testing. So the first question was, are students satisfied with a feeling of community within their group? The second question was, do students perceive the learning of the online courses to be of the highest quality? And question number 3 was, what course attributes contribute to student satisfaction in an online learning course? And I did put down here, of course, talking about the social presence. It is important to note that for this study, social presence was defined as the degree of salience of the other person in the interaction and consequent salience of the interpersonal relationships. In short, basically what that means is, were these students able to interact with other peers, as well as the professors and faculty. But the testing was carried out by 228 students enrolled in a 14-week online course of some population. And so basically what they did is they took students were in their first years of undergraduate all the way up to their last years of grad school, and did a 14-week online course. And so they wanted to get a large range but still trying to keep around the same age group. So definitely trying to, for at least technology now, in these online education courses, it is definitely something that the millennial group has had more access to, and so they definitely wanted to stay with that. But at the completion of the course, students were asked to answer the questions on a scale ranging from 1 to 6, and 6 being that they were the most satisfied. But during the first 7 weeks, the students were able to use email, text, phone calls, etc. So all the basics, just however they felt that they could, just in their own, contact other students and faculty. And so, but during the second 7 weeks, the professor actually would ask them to use VoiceThread. And so I had never used VoiceThread before, so I got to looking it up. And basically what it is just recording your voice and playing it, almost like YouTube with no video. And so one of the reasons that they use that for the second 7 weeks is so a lot of times through email, text, phone calls, you really can't see or understand individuals' emotions. And so the VoiceThread, you can actually understand maybe a little bit better of how a student is feeling about a certain topic. So again, they use that for the second 7 weeks. And the findings were that for the first question, are students satisfied with the feeling of community within their groups? They found that there were 2 main predictors. One was the ability to interact with other students, and the other was that introductions enabled them to form a sense of online community. And so it really makes sense. And so for this technology applications course, we actually did an introduction at the beginning, and I really felt like even if I never get to meet the other students face to face, it is really nice that I now know a little bit about them. So but the second question, do students perceive the learning in the online course to be of the highest quality? Again, they found the strongest in 2 predictors. They felt that their point of view is being acknowledged by their students, and also announcements. And so again, one of the reasons I really like these type of articles is that I can relate. And so for the announcements, I really relate to, it is something that is really being projected. Hey, this is important, and this is something you really need to focus on. But again, also just the point of view being acknowledged, and so that's really really huge. And so I read another article about millennials and how they are actually they like things immediately, and so being acknowledged is something that that we kind of crave for, and we crave it almost immediately. So, but the third question was, what students' attributes contribute to the students' satisfaction in an online learning course? And so this one, they actually found 5 predictors, and this is really the question that I like to think sums everything up in what they found. But they found that the quality of information provided by the instructor. And so, of course, it is. I find that very important. You want to make sure that the content that you're learning is relevant. But the ability to interact with other students, of course, going through discussions and other different variables like that, you definitely don't want to feel as if you were left out in space. But the rate of the instructor getting back to you, again, that goes back to immediacy. But the ability to communicate with the instructor, that is always important. So the call, text, and whatnot. But the feeling of a community. And so what's funny is that really goes into the first question. So in order for the third question to come into play, really the first question has to be met with students being able to interact. And so that really goes into the summary. It appears that 21st century technology has become vital to education, and I'm sure most will agree. But students in distance education want to feel as if they are attending a face-to-face class while they are online. Students find it important that they are able to frequently interact with students and faculty, as well as be acknowledged by peers for their work. The study also proves that student satisfaction can be related to interaction, ability, and done so in a timely manner. And so again, I think what I found most out of this research was that interaction is really what drives a student's not only success but enjoyment. And I think a lot of times in education we get lost behind students needing to be able to enjoy what they're doing, because if students aren't enjoying the learning and the education that they are going through, it does make things much more difficult. So Thank you all. This is my presentation for technology applications.